Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to today's episode of the Daily Packers Post, where we bring you in-depth videos on your Green Bay Packers. We have new episodes dropping every day, Monday through Friday, so hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, you can visit our website at thepackerspost.com for in-depth articles on your Green Bay Packers. Today, we discuss the possibility that the Packers could part ways with cornerback Nate Hobbs after just one season. And this is a decision that Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM, is going to have to make by the sometime in mid-March. And look, Hobbs was a big free agent signing last year, but things did not exactly work out as expected. And even though the Packers would not necessarily save a lot of cap space by moving on from Hobbs, it does remain a distinct possibility. Now, a year ago, the Packers signed Hobbs to a 4-year, $48 million contract, a big free agent deal, and it was a bit of a surprise. I don't think too many Packer fans and too many experts had Hobbs, his name, high on the list of potential free agents. He had spent the first 4 years of his NFL career with the Raiders, mostly playing in the slot. Never started more than 11 games in a season. Injuries were an issue throughout his career, but the Packers believed that he could be successful playing the boundary, and that was one of the reasons they ended up signing him. Now, Hobbs was never a ball hawk. In 4 years in the NFL with the Raiders, he only had 3 total interceptions, and unfortunately for Hobbs and the Packers, injuries derailed his first year in Green Bay. He suffered a knee injury during the preseason, opted for surgery with the hope that he'd be back in time for the season opener. Didn't quite work out that way. He missed week 1. He was limited in week 2. Ended up missing a total of 6 games over the course of the season due to several different knee injuries. And even during some of the games he played, he was not 100%. Played 11 games, started 5, was in on 27 total tackles, broke up 2 passes, and 2 of those 27 tackles were tackles for loss. Now, according to ProFootballReference.com, opposing quarterbacks completed 65.5% of their passes when throwing to receivers covered by Nate Hobbs, and their quarterback rating was 111.1. Pro Football Focus said that Hobbs graded out well against the run, but was average at best in pass coverage. Now, the big issue with Hobbs, as far as the Packers are concerned, is where does he fit into this defense? Because he appears at this point to be a man without a home. He has played his best football as a slot corner, but the Packers are deep at that position. Javon Bullard is the starter there. He has played very well. And let's face it, Keyshawn Nixon is also better in the slot than he is on the boundary. And he, was the technical cornerback 1 for the Packers in 2025, but Nixon really didn't play at that level, and it remains to be seen what the plan is for Nixon next season. Now, when the Packers signed Hobbs, they thought he could play the boundary well enough to stick around and maybe be a starter there, but he struggled on the boundary during limited reps in Green Bay, and the key question that Brian Gutekunst has to answer, and Matt LaFleur, and new defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, for that matter, is were the struggles on the boundary due to injuries predominantly, or does he just not have the skill set to succeed as a boundary cornerback? And if he can't play well enough to contribute on the boundary, his value to the team is much, much lower than expected, because you would basically have a guy who would be the team's 3rd best option in the slot, and maybe their 3rd or 4th boundary corner who you would prefer not to play there unless it was an emergency. And look, if you're looking at your 3rd best slot guy and your 3rd or 4th best boundary guy, there are a lot less expensive options to fill those roles than Nate Hobbs, and some of those options could even be better than Hobbs. Now, if the Packers part way with Hobbs this offseason, they would only save about $838,000 if they release him immediately. If they go with the post-June 1st designation, they could save up to $8.8 million with $4 million in dead cap for this season and then a little more dead cap space further down the road. The deadline is March 13th. That is the date that Hobbs is owed a $6 million roster bonus. And look, if you feel like Hobbs is not going to be a key contributor to this defense, not going to fit in anywhere, it doesn't make a lot of sense to pay him $6 million as a roster bonus. So look for a decision to be made before March 13th. Ultimately, it comes down to whether the Packers feel Hobbs can play the boundary and be one of the top boundary cornerbacks, that they'd be comfortable with him out there. The two players ahead of him on the depth chart on the boundary right now are Nixon and Carrington Valentine. I would also expect the Packers to look to add a cornerback in the draft, probably on day 2. Remember, the Packers don't have a first-round pick. Or they could try to add another free agent corner, but again, it depends how much money they're willing to spend. So we'll see how Gutekunst proceeds on or before March 13th. But right now, Hobbs seems like a man without a clear-cut role in the defense. And if that's the case, don't be surprised if the Packers ultimately decide that it's better to move on from Nate Hobbs rather than pay him $6 million to not have a defined role in this defense. Visit our website at thepackerspost.com for in-depth articles on your Green Bay Packers. Here on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss one of our episodes. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, go Pack Go.